Donald Trump is apparently now considering whether he will release the big memo implicating the FBI in some sort of gigantic conspiracy to take down Donald Trump, including the possibility of some sort of secret society. And so this is the Devin Nunes memo. And as of last night at the State of the Union, we have a little bit of video for you that implies that he is actually planning to release it. So let's watch that.
Let's release the memo. Oh, yeah. Don't worry. 100%. Can you imagine that?
Yes, sir.
Last year, he'd be too angry.
How you doing?
So he was speaking there with some giant that had wandered into the room. That was the largest person I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, it was a little bit hard to hear the audio, but he said whether, the guy asked him, are you going to release it? And he said 100%, which, I mean, he's not great at math, but that's all the percent. I mean, he's gonna do it. But then it turns out maybe not so much, because according to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump still hasn't seen the memo. And when asked on CNN if there's a chance he wouldn't release the memo, Sanders said there's always a chance. Well, there's always a chance unless there's a 100% chance he's gonna do it. So there's a bit of a miscommunication there between them. But yeah, so this is a guy who's talking constantly about how important and damning this memo is. Has he read it?
No.
That's reading, he doesn't wanna read.
No, John, see, that's where I think there's a twist there. So first of all, the guy he's talking to is Jeff Duncan, who wandered in from the other side of the wall.
Exactly.
I think Jon Snow let him in. No, obviously he's up on the seats there in the State of the Union, but
I choose to think he's a giant.
Yeah, I like that I had to clarify that he is not in fact a giant from the other side of the wall. So anyway,
Hagrid asked him.
Yeah. Anyway. So when Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked by Chris Cuomo on CNN, has the president seen the memo yet? Her answer was telling. She said, "Not that I'm aware of." Now that's a classic non-denial denial. Okay. That's not a no, that's a cover my ass. Well, I don't know it. I made sure that I don't know that he saw it. Now, why is that relevant? Because there are now reports that Nunes worked with Trump on the memo.
Yes, actually, a little bit later on, there was some breaking news in this area. Once we get done with this story, we can get into that. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion going on about to what extent Nunes, not just early on in the investigation when there was some questionable trips to the White House, but continues to coordinate with the White House on this. On something that is not just acting as a distraction from the actual investigation, but was clearly designed to be a distraction.
Yeah, so if in fact Trump has, or people in the Trump White House have worked with Nunes or his staffers on crafting the memo, then of course he's gonna release it. That's why he said 100% to Duncan. And he said, can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine me not releasing it? Now, why might they not release it? Well, all the intelligence agencies that work under Trump in the executive branch have come to Trump and said, don't release the memo. That's it. It is misleading. It is inaccurate. Don't do it. It's a really bad idea. But if Trump helped to write the memo, of course he's going to release the memo. That's why he says it's 100%. The whole point is not to be accurate. It's to do a hatchet job on the FBI. So when the FBI comes and says, please don't do it, he's like, right.
I actually have their statement. I can read a bit of that if you want. This was put out earlier today from the FBI saying, with regard to the House Intelligence Committee's memorandum, the FBI was provided a limited opportunity to review this memo the day before the committee voted to release it. As expressed during our initial review, we have grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy. So I think when you hear that the FBI doesn't want it to be released, my initial guess would be that there's some sort of classified information that they're worried about getting out, which generally is not something that I'm overly concerned about. I think that we have need of a lot of information. But here they're saying, no, it is purposefully misleading, and of course it's going to be. This entire thing has been so ridiculous, this whole release the memo thing, which is of interest largely to Sean Hannity and some bot networks online. It is an op-ed written by Devin Nunes, who is clearly attempting to protect Donald Trump, that is designed to do that. And so what's going to be in the memo? It's going to be like selected information that makes the FBI look bad. Well, what's new about that? Sean Hannity and any number of Republican congressmen have spent the past 6 months on a daily basis smearing the FBI. There's nothing new about that. And it's gonna end up being a lot like the the information of the testimony that comes out of Fusion GPS, where they kept saying they wanted it to be released, but then not allowing it to be released because the implication is far more damaging than the actual information in the testimony, or in this case, the memo.
The material omissions of fact that the FBI referred to is not the bug in the memo, it's the feature. The whole point is to smear the FBI, and that's why the Trump administration and Nunes, who worked in the transition team for Trump, are in favor of putting it out because the FBI is doing the investigation of Donald Trump. So they want to cover up for him. So look, this is much ado about nothing. I actually have now gotten to a point where, like as usual, we're stuck in this conundrum of this is a total non-issue, but the right wing yells so loudly about it that we feel compelled to counter it. But on the other hand, we're covering a non-issue.
Yeah.
It's a memo written by a highly partisan guy who was part of the Trump team telling us that Trump is right. Who cares? Who cares about that?
Yeah.
But that's the problem with the state of this country. The right wing is so loud that they changed the national conversation on so many issues that if we had a rational discourse, they'd be like, oh, okay, the Republicans think Trump is right. That's like your opinion, man. Democrats think he's wrong. That's your opinion, man. Now, what's the reality? But we're outside of the reality zone here.
You just watched a video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.